talk.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flip around between slides. I'm not going to go through all the slides.
Sure.
So bear with me. But thank you for coming back. So, your point about having two groups of students and how do you work with that, and it's a challenge, so you can design environments where their expertise is used within as a partnership with the faculty member, really, and working with the faculty member. So here's what we know about some of the different methods that we use and how much we retain after 24 hours. So if you do a lecture, and does this show up? No. Does this show up? Oh yeah, it does. Okay. If you do a lecture, after 24 hours, all that is retained at about 5% of what you've heard, if you just hear it, right? On the other hand, if you look at this bar here, if you teach others, and we all know this, all of us who teach, we know that you retain about 90% of what you taught to the other, somebody else, anybody else, right? And everything in between, right? So you can practice doing things, you can have discussion, you retain more than listening to someone talk, right? So what the implication of this is that when we teach, so of course we have to lecture sometimes. If you want to give some information to the students, you lecture. That's not the only way, but often you do that. But then you've got to build in other things into their experience, so they can retain more, they understand more, right? Okay, so if you look at what we did, okay, this was in a chemistry course, but right now it's in many different courses, including economics and history also. We took 2 to 3 hours of lecture, so the lecture remains the same, but in the US at least, in the science courses, you have another period where you do recitation or discussion, And what happens there very often is you have a teaching assistant who goes in there and gives answers to problems.
At this point, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You say 2-3 hours of lecture per week. What is the best practice? I mean, it's the 1-1-1 lecture period, or 1, 2, or 3 hours all at the same time?
We've been doing, 1 hour every other day.
1 hour every
Or
day.
1.5 hours, 2 days.
So divide to two pieces.
Right. You can do, it's done many different ways. Sometimes they do, I used to do 2 hours.
Which one is most effective or most is there any
and I don't know the answer to
research
that.
or something like this? No.
Our attention will start to diminish the longer that we're in a particular setting. So the longer those periods are, the greater the likelihood that our attention is diminishing. So shorter is better than longer. So a 3-hour, 1 3-hour is not good at all.
It's not a block. We have a lecture. A class is 50 minutes.
Yes.
So when I say two class hours, it means 250 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The research really is after about 8 to 10 minutes.
After 8 minutes.
8 to 10 minutes, the students don't pay attention. So, and most of us, your mind starts wandering. So what you have to do is do 7 to 8 minutes and then do something active. Ask them a question or do something to wake them up, but also think. Right? Think, right?
So this workshop though, is it outside the class?
It's outside the class, in addition to the lecture. Correct. So what we did was replace the recitation. You replace the recitation with this workshop. So what we did was you get selected students who are good students, just like the ones you're describing. Not all students who get an A are good peers, are good peer leaders, okay? They need to have good communication skills. They need to be able to explain things. They need to have some leadership skills, so they're not afraid of telling their peers, you need to stay on task. So you look for those qualities, but I think they can also be trained to do those things, and so this is The peer-led team learning just stands for a more experienced undergraduate student who has recently completed the course. So usually the student has just finished the course and is into the next course. They can come back and be peer leaders. Okay, the led refers to leadership. The team, the size of the teams is about 6 to 8 students per peer leader. You start putting 20 students with one peer leader, that's not effective. And you know, you've got undergraduate students who are working with them, you don't want to overwhelm them. So 6 to 8, you know, no more than that. Okay, and there's a lot of information on this website if you want to look at that. It just says plpl.org. So the thing is, besides forming these groups, and like Stacy was saying, and we had one more person talking to us, yeah, it's important that your materials are good. You know, you can't have drill yes/no answers. You really do need problems that they have to discuss, that have maybe 2 or 3 answers, and you have to evaluate which is the best answer. So you want something that one person cannot do, okay? You want problems that you need to talk to somebody else and work on. It's more complicated than just one person can do. And then the thing is, the leader has to be trained. So that's a requirement. So the workshop is just a worksheet, 6 to 8 students, and a peer leader. That's what we're calling a workshop, okay? And it complements the lecture. So the material is covered in the lecture, and now the students are coming back and working on problems that are based on the lecture material. Okay? So it is a partnership between the faculty member and the good students that you're talking about. It promotes developing new ownership of new ideas because they're talking about it. They're practicing the language of chemistry or physics or engineering, whatever. They're communicating knowledge to each other. They need to argue with each other. So again, you know, the materials you prepare for this workshop are very important in how the workshop is going to go. And of course, you know, the peers can give each other feedback. Just like, so what we were looking at is the research model. What do the scientists do? They do the work in the laboratory, then they go to the conferences and present it. Then the peers give them some feedback, they ask questions, right? You come back and you revise what you did. This is an opportunity for students to revise their understanding of the material. Okay? So the critical things, you know, if anybody was going to implement this, you really have to make it integral to the course. So it's not optional. It's part of the course. It's something that the students do as a regular thing. Like you have to go to the lab, you have to go to the workshop. The materials have to be challenging, and we usually don't provide just an answer key. You know, have them develop the answers. So the peer leaders need to be able to ask good questions. What do you mean by this? How did you get there? Why did you do this? You know, so developing those questions is part of their training, okay? And of course, you know, when we talk about faculty need to be supportive, you can't say, okay, I've got these 8 peer leaders, go do this workshop, you know. You have to know what's going on in the classes. It needs to be integrated with the lecture. They also need to be part of the training of the leaders. So what do you want the students to get this week from this lecture? And of course the administration, and this is where Hojam comes in and you come in, you have to be supportive of this because it is going to require some different kinds of things. For example, a classroom like this is probably not appropriate for this kind of activity. So they need round tables sitting across from each other, you know, and there's some work on that too. The round tables with about 7 feet diameter is about the best interaction. You know, so they've tried different size tables. If you're too far apart, you don't talk very well. You shout too much, you know. So, yeah, you know, so there are dimensions in that too, right? And I'm going to skip over all of this because it's all organic chemistry problems. But these are the examples of the kinds of problems we use in these things. Now, why no answer keys? You know, because if you give the answer and the students know the answer, that's it. That's the end of the discussion. So giving out the answer key to begin with is probably not a good idea. Do you want them to leave with misconceptions? No. but you want to be able to ask them questions so you will go to the right answer. But just saying the answer for this is 2.4 is not good, because then they know, and that's it. Yes, Stacy.
Could you add a question? Does this require that there is basically a right answer? I mean, I'm thinking about our colleague who was here yesterday who asked about business ethics. There's
Right.
never going
There
to be
is
a
no-
right answer to
There is
business
no right
ethics.
answer. Yeah. So
So,
those kinds of problems are really good problems, because then you have to evaluate
yeah,
of the 3 or 4 answers, which is the best answer
Okay.
for, yes, so those kinds, and you know, people think in math and chemistry and all, there is one correct answer, but really, in organic chemistry, when you go from point A to point B, you can do that several different ways, and to evaluate depending on what your purpose is. If you want the cheapest way to get from A to B, you do one way. If you want the greenest way to do A to B, you have a different way. You know, if you want the most atom economy, you do it a third way. You know, so there's different ways of evaluating it. Those are the best kind of questions for this. And so if somebody wants to do it, there are books out there that there's a guidebook and there's a leader handbook. So this one here, this is for the team leaders. You know, there are things when they get into facilitating groups, they have questions about how do I do this? If the student isn't talking, what do I do? If the student is talking too much, what do I do? If the students don't come prepared, what do I do? And those are the kinds of things that are discussed in that leader handbook. And then we have some other books with sample problems. You know, they're not problems that are going to work all the time, because once they've been discussed, the answers are there. But it sort of gives you exemplars of what a workshop unit should look like, and so we've done that in several of this, in organic chemistry as well as in general chemistry. Now, of course, there are materials for math, biology, economics. Like I said, in physics, there are different disciplines that have got this. There are also these 2 books. Actually, it says Chemist's Guide to Effective Teaching, and I have a chapter in each of those, but these are really good for any kind. It's all about learning theory, just what Stacy had talked about, and then there are examples of that. So these are good books to have around. Let's talk a little bit about what the leader has to do, because you know, it's not an easy job for a leader, for a student to do this, because for one thing, they have to know the content, right? So this is the key thing. You can't have a student not know the content. So this is where your good students come in. They will be good at the content. Then they have to have some leadership skills. And they also need to interact well with the individuals and know what the individuals are doing. So any good teacher has to do that. You know, this isn't just for the leaders. But if you're going to put undergraduate students in there, you have to support them, and you have to give them training to do this. So anyway, this is about teaching, right? We were talking about teaching earlier. If the dog can't whistle, right? So if you taught him, what does that mean, right? And so I'm not going to give the whole lecture, but if you look at the evaluation, you know, we did several different things. We did some focus groups. We also looked at their grades, you know, the comparative grades, with either sections that did PLTL and didn't do PLTL, or compared it to historical data for the same professor. Our evaluator also went did site visits and you know, looked at how the workshops were going and that kind of stuff. So, and did interviews both with faculty members, with the leaders, and with the students.
Were you able to convince anybody at IUPI to use this method?
IUPUI has one of the larger programs actually, because organic, the general chemistry, they do 600
Actually, I remember.
students.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. And the BEPCO Learning Center trains the leaders. They have someone who trains the leaders. So IUPUI has a good size program actually. 600 students a year do this.
Yeah, it's been on for some time, I think, a couple of years. It was on maybe
Since 98.
10 years ago.
Yes, since 1998.
So you were with this program?
Yeah, I actually, I worked with them when they put it in. Bob Blake was the professor then. Yeah, and David Malik.
Yeah, Malik.
Yes.
Are the students paid for their leadership?
Yes. So, but we were just talking. So, every university does this differently. We used to pay them, and when we had a
You
national.
used to pay them,
We
not
did.
anymore.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second. So we had a National Science Foundation grant, and so we paid them about $500 a semester to do this. Okay. At IUPUI, the workshop manuals that they have, they sell them. That's how they raise the money, and they pay the leaders. I think they pay them about $300 a semester. So each university does it differently. Sometimes they give them credit for leadership. You know, they'll give them 1 credit something. Again, the training too is done differently. Sometimes they train them, there's a course to train them. IUPUI has a course. So the students register for the course and get credit for the leadership training. Okay? Sometimes, I think those are the 3 main things really. You can train them without a course. You can just meet with them on a weekly basis. But if you put them in a course, they get credit for it. Now, Hassan was saying that if you give scholarships to the better students, maybe part of that can be that when you get the scholarship, you will participate as a peer leader. So then that eliminates that extra budget line that you have to come up with, you know. And we've seen that happen quite a bit. Now that it's going into other universities, people have been doing that. So it shows up on their transcript sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is what we've found. So, you know, someone asked me this question about what kind of difference you see. And there's some of the changes that we see when you put in the peer-led team learning. These were the, all these up to here were the original schools that put it in. Okay? These last 4 are just controlled studies that other people have done and published.
So that's the impact of
The pink.
PPL,
The
that is the pink color?
Correct.
Red
Yeah.
color?
So in terms of success, how we're measuring success is the number of students that get A's, B's, and C's, right? So chemistry is notorious really for not
Yeah.
doing well. Look at where it started at City College in New York. Only 35% of the students were passing the first chemistry course. So that changed quite a bit, and that's a little bit higher now. You know, this is a long time, a while back. That is a little bit higher now. So that's a big change in a chemistry class when you go from 35% to about 55%. Still not ideal.
What are the meaning of each column here, and what are they, 1 to 15? What are they?
Different
Oh, these are different universities.
Different universities.
Different universities. This is this group of universities was funded by NSF, and those are the last few are just people who've adopted it and published about it. This one was, this is published in the Journal of Research and Science Teaching, JRST, and this was done at University of Rochester. And if you see, they separated this out, so this was all the students, but then when they separated male and female, the females actually gain more than the males. And this is in the literature, other literature too, that women do better in collaborative environments as opposed to men. But if, you know, men too benefit. And then we've got this majority, and then the minority students are students who are African American or Hispanic. Those are the minority students.
May I have a question?
Yes.
Sorry to mention blindness. Are these students who joined workshops, you said 6 to 8 students, are they same students throughout the semester?
Yes.
Or it's like,
Yeah.
okay, same students?
So we keep them together. And the reason for that is, besides being you want them to form this collaborative relationship, and they're working with the mentor. So there is a mentoring relationship that goes on too. And they do other things too, you know, they'll advise them on which courses to take and all of those kinds of things too. It's a more, the support is beyond learning chemistry. They're out there doing other things too. So yeah, we do keep the groups together.
Okay, how about dropouts?
How about?
Dropouts, what if they want to leave the group?
You
What
know,
if they-
and we haven't seen that as a major problem. Occasionally it does happen, that a student is just not doing well in a group, and then you move them. You-
I mean, leader wants them to leave, or it's
Both.
both?
It could be the leader asking or the student not wanting to be in that group. It hasn't been a common problem, but it can be a problem, yes.
Just one leader in the team.
Right, there's just one leader in the team. This is IUPUI data. So see, they're looking at the DWF rates, and they really actually keep going down. This look at
That's
this.
a drop, fail withdraw rate.
Yes, yes.
So
This is the number of students that are dropping out or failing or withdrawing from the course. So this is not the pass. This is the opposite. So it should go down. Yes. So anyway, you know, what we did was we took the peer leaders, once they graduated and went into, say, medical school or started working or did other things, you know, we talked to them afterwards and said, what was it about this experience that you took to your workplace or to the graduate school? And these are their comments from that questionnaire. So we had a lawyer who used peer-led team learning in his, you know, those kinds of things. They come back and, and there's a construction worker, somebody who went into construction and said, well, I used what I did in peer-led team learning with my construction workers. So the point is that these students, this is a skill that's different from what you get in a classroom. It's when you have to lead and when you have to teach, and what goes with you, what do you retain. So that's important, right? What are you going to retain after you've forgotten all the stuff that you learned, right?
Do you have quotes from those students in the team also?
You know, we do. So I have this is the team that worked on it. That was the original founding team. This is now, it's in these schools across the United States, right? And then we have, it's in this book. You'll find everything you want to know in this book. So leader quotes are there and student quotes are there too.
Oh, this is different than the book.
Then those other books.
And guide.
That's right. This is just an evaluation. So what happened was, let me go back here. What we wanted to do, and this is really important for the teaching centers. So how do you take an innovation and then spread it to other people or get other faculty to adopt it, right? So what we found was, this was the model we proposed to the National Science Foundation. And what we found was very often faculty would come and look at us, listen to a 15-minute talk or half an hour talk, and then they would go away, you know. Some of them came back. And then they would come back to this 2 to 3 day workshops that we offered through the year. So once they came there, then we gave them a little grant of about $5,000. That's where my $5,000 for course enhancement comes from. This is where we used to give $5,000 here. And they would put peer-led team learning in their classes and evaluate it on their campus. That was the purpose of that, okay? And then our job, or what we wanted them to do is once they had experienced it, then we wanted them to take on leadership roles and help other faculty implement it. So this is a loop, you know, autocatalytic in some ways, because we can't do it. I get tired of talking about this. In fact, you know, after a while you get tired of talking about these kinds of things over and over again. But other faculty bring fresh perspectives to it too. They bring other innovations that we didn't think of. The way they train leaders, the way they pay them, which courses they're going to put it in, for the materials that they develop. So really having new faculty doing it infuses new ideas in it all the time. So That's what we did. And so this is how the numbers increased, is because they helped each other. You can do the same thing within a university. There's no reason why this has to be outside. It can be done within the university. Okay? So there is a book called Rogers. It's written by Rogers, and it's called Diffusion of Innovations. That's a good book to look at. How you take something new. So if you're going to start a new center, how do you get people to come and use it? How do you get them to buy into it? Yeah. So that's a good book to look at if you were going to do something like this. So anyway, that's my story on this. I could go on, but it's oh, so now we have I should talk about this. So this is all it's all done face to face. But we have students who work and have families, and they can't always spend the extra 2 hours on campus. So we put in a proposal to NSF to give us some money to develop it online. So now what we do is, let me see if I can play this, and you'll see this is in very, very early stages, but...
Didn't you get an undergraduate research project before submitting?
Yes, you gave it to me.
Yeah. So I broke mine out of...
So you got an NSF project grant for it?
Can you hear it?
So when I broke it down,
Yeah, we hear it.
I got the 500
But you can't see any pictures.
times 8,000.
Oh, no pictures?
So these people are all sitting in their own homes.
Maybe click one more time.
No.
Okay. So I broke mine out of...
We have to test this.
Yeah, we have
for
to
the
wait
next time.
for tomorrow.
So when I broke it down,
So anyway, the students are sitting at their own homes with their computers working on this. And the other things that they need is what do you call it? Headset, yeah. And a tablet to write on. Okay, so this is the tablet that they're writing on. And this is what, if you're a leader, this is what you see. You can see the work of all of the students that is going on their own computers. You can also break them up into groups. So you can put them in 2 different rooms and say, 3 of you work on this, 3 of you work on this, and then come back together. So the leader has control of that. Okay? And this is being done in Adobe Connect. So there are things that we could improve on it. We don't have the data yet, very preliminary data. So we just got this grant, and we've been working on this. But I think this will be fun to combine pedagogy and technology. And the center has many instructional technology people that are on this grant and are working with me on this.
They received, Pratibha received an undergraduate research project, like our lab project. No, from university, like lab project. They did the initial study and they submitted a proposal to NSF. So this is the NSF part, but I think that's what many faculty now try to do at IUPI. They use undergraduate research results to submit proposals to other agencies.
Good example for us.
And this was a MURI project, actually. This was a MURI project.
Yeah, and the thing here is, again, the driving force are really 2 undergraduate students that are doing this. They were the first ones. Then we wrote the proposal. That's why we applied for the undergraduate. It's really and those 2 have stuck with us.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I just said it once, I was in a talk and I said, well, the next thing for PLTL would be to see what we can do online. And these 2 students came to my office, and they haven't left yet. 2 years later, they still keep coming back, and they're the ones who designed this. So they understand what their peers can do and what they need. You see, the key thing here is that the peer leaders are the recent learners of the material. And so they know all the issues that they had to go through to learn something new. Those of us who've been teaching it for 30 years, we don't remember how we first learned it and all the issues we had. It becomes a part of us, it's automatic almost. When I look at a chemistry structure and just try to decide whether it's chiral or not, I look at it and I know. But when I first learned it, I had to think about it. And the new learners, the peer leaders, they remember that, so they can help their peers that way. We don't consider them experts, so they don't teach new material, and they also don't grade, because we don't want this, again, like the teaching center, we don't want them to be the evaluators. That's somebody else's job. They're more mentors, friends, and cheerleaders, helping their friends learn.
Do they evaluate each other? Like, is there
So we have the leaders go to each other's, or sometimes we go to their sections and, yes, look at how they're performing. We don't do a lot of it, and we're not always hovering in those sections because we want them to do it on their own. But once a semester, we go in and evaluate what's going on with the teachers, with the leaders. What's nice about this, because it's all captured, you can look at the different leadership styles of the students, and you can use it for training. You can, you see, because it's all recorded. Otherwise, you have to go in and record, and that's intrusive to a certain extent. Whereas this is not.
How long have you been practicing this?
Since 95.
Since 1995.
Yes. That's when we got our first grant from NSF. And so 95 to, our last one was about 2004. We got a total of about $8 million to do.
But this version is online version is very new.
It's very new.
Not finished yet.
So we're doing 5 sections at IUPY right now. 5 workshops are done this
Through
week.
this?
Yeah. So it's slowly, but just increasing it slowly. Because there's a lot of things to control, and you don't want to hurt the students. So we did 2 the first time, 3 the next, 5 this time, and we'll increase it in the spring.
So if you want to use this will be available to us too, will it be? Or
Once we have it, so it can be disseminated. Yes. And then, yeah, that's the idea.
NSF
Yes.
is okay with that.
Oh, they want us to.
They want you to.
They want us to. Yeah. In fact, they told me to form an advisory board again. And this program doesn't require an advisory board, but they said, this has wider applicability, so you should have an advisory board. So anyway, any comments?
This is very good.
The other question, how common is this, in the university in IUPUI?
It's only in one course.
Only in one course?
Only in one course. But there are other things that they do. So this is just one version of using undergraduate students. There's supplemental instruction where that's not required, but it has very many of the elements are the same. There the students bring their homework and work with their peer leaders. So there's some of that. You can also, we are doing it in organic chemistry, which is not peer-led team learning, but we're using undergraduates. So we have 2 undergraduates in a room with 4 sections, 4 groups. So about 22 to 24 students with 2 undergraduates. So there's not one for 6 to 8, but there's 2. That's the next level. And this is general chemistry, and that's in the organic chemistry. We're doing it in IUPUI. Biology is doing some, and they call it supplemental instruction. It's a little bit different. But again, they use undergraduate students. So there are many different ways of bringing in undergraduates to teach their peers. There's not one way to do it. In fact, there's a book called Student Assisted Teaching, and there are 26 different examples of how all different ways of bringing in undergraduate students. So I can give you that reference.
Okay. It's different than your book. Yours is evaluated.
Ours is all about one method, but the
There are
student
other
assisted teaching, there's 26 different methods.
And that's 26 courses. Okay. Any questions or comments? Well, I think we should be thanking our thanking them. They have been busy till now every afternoon, and they will be busy also for the rest of the week too. But this afternoon they will be on sightseeing.
Hassan is giving us some time off.
I don't know how much sight is there to see.
It's raining.
It's raining, but they will try. So maybe a little bit shopping too.
Yeah.
So there will be a reception on Friday afternoon in honor of them. So we hope you will be able to join us. We changed that to 4:30 p.m. So this way. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.